As some of you know, today is the Japanese time, as it were, for Buddha's birthday. Of course, no one knows when his birthday is, but there's another version of it that his birthday is in early May, also Wesak it's called, but it's a Theravada Buddha's birthday time. That's kind of set up as the international birthday time. We're a month earlier. And so my talk today is about that. One day, the queen of a small land in northern India had a dream. A white male elephant came up to her with a white lotus in its mouth and walked around her 3 times. Then with his trunk, it struck her on her right side and then left. Her husband, the king, had a large group of Brahmin priests interpret the dream. They said that it showed that the queen would give birth to a son who, if he stayed in the palace, would become a great warrior and leader. But if he didn't, he would become a Buddha. As the time of the birth drew near, the queen, as must have been the custom, here's our queen right here, the tail of the queen here, wanted to return to her home country to give birth. And the king agreed. As she was traveling there with a large group, they came to a flowering grove, and she asked the procession to stop so that she could enter the grove. As she raised up her hands to touch the blossoms, she began to experience the beginnings of childbirth. And when a child was born in the grove, it was indeed a boy. Perfumed flowers, as well as twin showers of water, fell upon the mother and the child. At this, the infant arose, took 7 steps, pointed his right index finger towards the sky and his left towards the earth, and proclaimed, "I alone am the world-honored one." I was once puzzled by this legend. Though it usually takes many months for an infant to walk, this baby immediately took several steps, pointed up and down, and made a profound statement that any other child would have had to be at least 4 to make. Of course, I didn't expect that this story would be taken literally. Indeed, his 7 steps are said to stand for north, south, east, and west, as well as up and down, which makes 6, and then here, which is 7. And these 7 steps stand for his being at the center of everywhere. Pointing up towards the sky and then down towards the ground symbolize the integration or unification of the earth and the sky, or the particular and the universal, or form and emptiness, or relative and absolute. In other words, it is representative of the unity of each thing with everything. This much wasn't hard for me to accept. My problem was with I alone am the world-honored one, which sounded to me egocentric at first, to say the least. That baby was not going to have problems with self-confidence, I thought. Later I came to see that the implication was not only that there can be Buddhas, but that all of us are born with Buddha nature. We start out as world-honored ones. If our parents had known this, they might have thought that we were their world-honored ones. In the Lotus Sutra, when the Tathagata, the thus come one, appears, he sees an endless landscape of lotuses with a Buddha sitting on each. This is the picture of our world as well. We are all the Tathagatas, surrounded by other Tathagatas, and each in the center of their own world of Tathagatas on lotuses everywhere. This image could be a helpful one. What this image stands for could be a helpful one for those times when our lives seem about to be overwhelmed by difficulties. If we ask ourselves why we are in such a state, it can remind us of where we really are. The real truth of things and ourselves is as portrayed here. We also straddle heaven and earth, are both relative and absolute. And if we choose to, we can investigate our lives as Shakyamuni did his until we ourselves become clear about this. Deep inside, we already know that it is possible to recognize this while we are still alive. Life is thus a riddle to be worked on throughout life. And our way of doing this is with meditation. Each time we sit, we go back to this source in the well that is everyday life. And in order to make contact with the ocean that we are. You might think that there is no connection between wells and oceans, but when we are doing zazen, there is. Recognizing it or not, it is almost as if each washing of us in the water of the well gets us a little less dirty until a moment comes when we are clean, as it were. It is then that we are aware, as the baby Buddha was, of being alone, the world's honored one. And that is why our washing of him here today should remind us of our own practice. Just as he would have washed himself daily throughout his life, we should continue sitting even though we have experienced something enlightening. What this sort of event may mark, however, is the beginning of our living our lives as bodhisattvas, helping others with their practice as well. Thank you. Here is Jane. I'm going to move my seat over here a little. Okay, here we are. Let me have a drink here. Do you have any comments or questions? Thank you, Mike. Yes?
I still stumble over the term world honored. It makes me think that the world's honoring me. Can you kind of clarify those two words in relationship to this statement?
Well, of course, I didn't write that into my talk. It would have been a little hard, but it's a good question. It's a good question. Because actually, I actually hadn't thought about it. I kind of accepted it. Why I should accept it, I don't know. But anyway, he is indeed, he does become the world honored one. But each of us is in our own world. And within that world, we also have Buddha nature. And so within that world, we accept ourselves, not quite accept ourselves is not the right word here. Um, uh, 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 we will recognize ourselves. The talk says Buddha, of course, in this case, started out by saying it, and that because it really does represent us in the beginning, and we are indeed world honored ones within our own world.
Is that
Because
something special?
no, it's not something special, but it's something that we and nobody else recognizes usually, hardly ever, if at all. So it's not special, no. I mean, it's so, uh, uh, it's not something special from that point of view, no. But of course, it's necessary, even though it's a fact, as it were, and I supposed in my talk that we all know it deep inside ourselves that we can do this. We can actually become realized. We can really become clear about the nature of the world and of ourselves. Still, you know, we have to just kind of accept that gently until something happens to us, and then we know. Not that we don't know that we're world honored ones, and we don't know that we're Buddhas, as it were, but we do recognize what the Buddha understood.
We're world honored by the fact that this is our world. And in order to work in it, we're honoring ourselves in a way, and saying you've got the capability of becoming and realizing your Buddha, your internal Buddha nature. But the world we see and experience is our world because it's our senses that are giving us the data that we encounter. So in a way, our world's reflecting us is, and maybe that's what the honor is. I still trip over that word honor.
Well, I'm still trip over it too, Mike. I think you did a little better job than even I did here. Let's call on somebody else. What else? Anybody else have some ideas? Jane? Jane, we want Jane here.
I just wanted to say that world honored one is a usual expression of a Buddha. It's a way of saying this person is a tathagata. And we get hung up on it because we discriminate, honored and dishonored and something like that. So we feel funny sliding into the other extreme. But I think it means that it's above and beyond any of it, because it means this person is the one and only existing within that cosmos or that world. Therefore, the world honored one means the one who is at the complete center. That's how I would see it.
Yeah.
And that we get hung up on honored because it, we start thinking about, humble and not humble and so on. But I think in this case, it's just a term to express a Buddha.
In the talk there, I talked about the Lotus Sutra and the Tathagata, thus come one. Seeing, and there are a lot of people listening to it, like thousands of people are listening to it, as it were, and all of those honor each other, because actually, when your practice is finished, you recognize that everyone is exactly Buddhas, and that we're all equal, and that you yourself have no special place within, but we all are honored ones.
But we do have a special place within our world.
Within our world, yes,
That like each Buddha sitting on its own lotus.
Yeah.
I think that must be part of what they're expressing.
Yeah, exactly. We are every single person is a Buddha, and they're in their own world. And they're on a lotus. Yeah, and the lotus, of course, is the symbol of enlightenment. I say, of course, but that's probably what it is. Thank you. Yes, Ellen, nice to see you.
Hi. Yeah. Nice to see you guys too. I like what Jane was saying about as soon as we hear world honored, we automatically go, well, then there must be a dichotomy. There must be an opposite. And what I really like about Zen is that no. You know, you can be world honored and or something can be world honored, and that doesn't automatically mean that others are not world honored. I think that, you know, it's a hang up, you know, that we have of, if somebody is one thing, that means everybody is not. And I don't, you know, I like that idea of somebody is one thing, maybe, and it doesn't mean that everybody else is not.
Yeah, I'm looking at 11, though 12, Connie Jane, world honored ones. Hey guys, yeah.
we, we don't, you know, it's that setting up of that duality that gets us into trouble, and that gets us defensive. That you know, if it's very interesting to think of that. And yeah, I really like kind of looking at it from that way, you know, that non-duality. So
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Joe?
So is it like the world honored one of suffering?
Have everything probably.
Yeah. Well, suffering, you know, suffering cannot be avoided. I mean, sometimes we suffer, or a lot of the time we suffer. But there's unnecessary suffering, and that's what we practice to come to terms with our unnecessary suffering, because it keeps us away from ourselves. And yes, Sandy.
Well, if we create our own world, then we would automatically be the world honored one, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Oh.
That's the
Of course, we don't create our own world. We are in it. We are in it.
We do with our mind. We create our reality. No, I was just joking, but
Well, I think that's kind of true, because if you're feeling strange, then people are strange.
Or if you're not feeling strange, people are not strange. You know, I mean, let's forget about all this stuff and say we're like-minded, aren't we? We're all like-minded here. We're not special about it, but we found like-minded people within our world, and we're here helping each other by saying, yes, we agree with you. This is worth doing, and we do. And I think I like the idea that we honor each other, and not just. And I say that right now, but of course, when I say that, ultimately we honor every person and everything in the world. Truly, even though it's within our world, we don't touch other worlds, just our world. But still, you know, that's the attitude that we will naturally come to have. It's not. It's when last night when we did our Joko Beck talk with her, it was one about it was quite interesting for me anyway, and it explained that that enlightenment is not some big bang. I think she's even really used the word big bang, perhaps, is not some big bang kind of thing. Finally, enlightenment is being okay with everything. And being okay with everything means there's no problem with things. Because even though we continue to have problems in our lives, we have a different kind of understanding of it. We understand that that everything that the world is a good place, and that everything that happens to us in it, well, it's not really good. That would be kind of far-fetched to say, but we have that feeling that there's a basic feeling of that, and it's because there's nothing that we reject. We accept everything. That doesn't mean we don't. That we're passive. We very actively do things in order, to solve problems that we had in our lives, and one of them could be all various kinds of suffering. And we work on that. Of course we do. We put band-aids on stuff. That's misusing some, because that becomes an idiom of doing something that you're trying to patch up but that you can't. I didn't mean that here. I mean, we try to heal ourselves, just very naturally. Yes.
Me? Ooh.
Oh,
Ellen?
Ellen.
Yeah, I really like the idea of acceptance is not passivity. I bring a lot of Zen to my teaching. I'm wrapping up my 4th year teaching high school. Oh, and then I'm going to Tathagata this summer for 3 months.
Really? Oh, great. Wow, how about that?
Yeah, I'm not coming back here to Douglas. But the Zen of, for example, it has helped me see, okay, if I have a student who has some challenging behaviors, I'm always going to have a student who has challenging behaviors. I'm always, so this student in this particular situation is not, an obstacle to be either ignored, like just live with it, or get over it. It's, to me, this student is a teacher of, and an opportunity. But it also very much means that I'm, an opportunity for me to learn the different strategies and the different procedures that I need to, that I'm going to use in the future, and that, I may have used in the past. And for me, that concept of not passivity, but seeing things as part of a bigger process has really, really helped me, because especially working with teenagers, that idea of going back to, oh, this person's honored, so I'm not honored. It's not like that at all, so I bring a lot of that Zen to my teaching, I think.
Oh,
Thanks.
good. That sounds very good. Very, very nice. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Sandy?
So then, to me, it seems that the bath that we give baby Buddha is equivalent to us sitting on the cushion and basically washing ourselves by looking at our thoughts, looking at what's our problems are and what's continuing to keep them in our lives, and to accept that and to let it go. And it's like a continuous process of letting go until we too are clean and have, and are able to realize what life really is, and
Yeah.
our connection to everything.
Yes. So it is. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes. Yes,
I
Ellen.
don't have anybody to talk to out here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think there's something so cool about bathing a statue, right? Or bathing, technically, what I consider to be an inanimate object, right? Because we think of bathing a live baby, as good for the baby, right? It cleans the baby, it keeps the baby healthy. It's something we have to do to take care of the baby. But what if in this act, bathing another thing, it's good for us, right? To bathe something else, to bathe something that even more than a baby may not understand or have any consciousness at all, that we're taking care of it. And again, we go back to that duality. Well, what's the purpose of taking care of something if it's not going to grow and be conscious? And well, maybe, it's for us to have the joy of bathing something, because that process, for many people who do have babies, is nice. And so for those of us who don't have babies, it's, and I'm thinking of many people, maybe monks or nuns, who don't, we get to have that experience of being from the parental point, which is also a blessing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mike?
Just a quick answer to what Ellen was talking about. Bathing the Buddha is a sign of affection. A parent bathes a child out of love and caring and stuff like that. And so maybe the bathing of the Buddha is like a showing of affection and nurturing the ideal of the Buddha. Yes, it's just a statue, but it's a showing of respect and affection toward the concept of the Buddhahood we have inside us.
Yes, that's true. And I think also, when we bathe ourselves, we are taking care of ourselves. And ultimately, we'll come around to understanding that. Sandy?
I want to thank you for your talk, because you answered a question that I've had for years and never really thought about bringing up, why the statue of the baby Buddha is standing.
Well, there you go.
Because you always think of a baby laying in, in diapers or swaddling in some kind of thing, unable to stand on its own. But baby Buddha can, and that's because, as you said, he took the 7 steps. So if he can stand, he can, if he can walk and stand, then, he wouldn't be necessarily laying down. So I always wondered why they show him as looking, like he's grown and he's a toddler rather than a baby.
He's more than a toddler, and our
Yeah.
statue. You'll see it. We have
A child.
Yeah. As we thought might happen, Jane and I are the only people here for Buddha's birthday.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the screen right here. There's no one that could come here today, actually.